Welcome on into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for the Week 11 running back rankings. I hope you had a nice Wednesday. I did release the wide receiver video early today, so check that on out, and the tight ends and quarterbacks video, which is a little bit lengthier than normal, will be coming out later. But there's some good analysis in there, hopefully some good analysis ahead in this video. But because of that, lengthier quarterback tight end video, let's get through this video. Let's start off with the rankings here for the first tier of running backs as we will go through them. As you can see, there are some projections on the screen, and I'm just remembering right now, this is a lengthy tier. I have 15 running backs in this tier. I can't show you them all. I mean, I could. This tier is your must-start running back group here. It's a bigger tier, but I think we're at that point right now this week with how things are shaking up. You can see the projections are all pretty not too different, a little bit of here and there, but all in all, these are the guys who I definitely feel comfortable playing. We'll just put it like that. So Saquon Barkley is my running back 1 this week, followed by Joe Mixon, and a really good matchup against Dallas. Christian McCaffrey is my running back 3, followed by Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Kyren Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, Devon Achane, David Montgomery, Kenneth Walker, the third, Jonathan Taylor, and Josh Jacobs to wrap that up in a game where I think he could definitely have a bigger week here against Chicago. So, in this tier, I don't think there should be too many arguments. Obviously, let me know in the comments if you think somebody should be ranked higher or lower than somebody else. But ultimately, hopefully, you don't have to make any decisions with these top 14. For most people, most teams, you should be good. But of course, there are some wrinkles in here, and we'll talk about those a little bit so you can get an idea of how trustworthy you are of them. Kareem Hunt going up against the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills are tied for the 6th best fantasy matchup for opposing running backs. Last week, I talked about the upside to Kareem Hunt being in that matchup, the receiving work that he could potentially have had given the matchup and how other teams had attacked their opponent last week for Kansas City. But without any evidence, I wasn't willing to fully bet on it because they really had not used Kareem Hunt until last week very much in the receiving game. But guess what happened? Kansas City went all in with 10 targets to Kareem Hunt. I think he caught 9 of them, so it worked out really well. Teams throw to the running back against Buffalo. Buffalo does not care. I've talked about this several times throughout the year. If you watch the games, you can see they do not care if the running back catches the ball 3-5 yards from the line of scrimmage. You can pepper that all day, and Buffalo will give it to you. And that shows up in the stats. The running backs have the most receptions against the Buffalo Bills, and they also have the most receiving yards against the Buffalo Bills compared to any other NFL team. So, with what we saw from last week, them willing to get Kareem Hunt involved in the pass game, which we knew in the past in Kansas City, in his first stint there was something that he thrived in. Why wouldn't we expect that to be somewhat at least repeated here against Buffalo? So, you know what? Just stay at home, Juju Smith-Schuster, get nice and healthy, let Kareem Hunt have all of this stuff. Another 10 targets would be fantastic. That's going to bring us on to David Montgomery, my running back 11. Originally, my first love of the week. This is the type of matchup where he could outscore Jahmyr Gibbs. Remember earlier on in the season, several matchups early on in the season, I ranked David Montgomery ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs, oftentimes correctly, maybe every time correctly. I was really nailing that for like a 5-week period, going kind of back and forth between the two. And then there was a bunch of matchups where they were, more friendly to Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jahmyr Gibbs starts to get a little bit more work in some of those matchups, and it's worked out that Jahmyr Gibbs has been the better back for some time, and of course he will be at the end of the day on the season. This week, however, I think, like I said, this could be a matchup for David Montgomery here against Jacksonville. As 13-point favorites, that's right, 13-point betting favorites with a projected score of 30 points. I'm, pretty optimistic that there's going to be plenty of opportunities for this team to score, for David Montgomery to score, and I expect him to be the one that they turn to in this game to just establish that run, and once they get close to the end zone, maybe hand it off, let him have his day. It's been a little while. It's been a Jahmyr Gibbs rushing attack for several weeks now. You want to get your, you don't want David Montgomery to feel left out. So I think he's going to eat this week a lot. And that's going to bring us on to my next tier, which just goes from running back 15 on down to running back 18. A little bit about Chase Brown going up against the Los Angeles Chargers after I comment that Breece Hall is my running back 16, followed by Aaron Jones, and James Cook is running back 18 to finish this little tier off. So Chase Brown is in a very limited matchup against Los Angeles Chargers this week. So once again, a little bit concerned about him, but he's been fantastic, even in matchups that have been a little bit concerned about him the last couple of weeks. Teams don't run against the Chargers very much. Running backs do have an average yards per carry against them, though, so definitely not the end of the world type of matchup here. What they do is target their running backs a lot against this Los Angeles Chargers team, the second most against them. So tight ends, you'll see that in that video. Running backs, Chargers are another team that kind of allow a lot of this shorter stuff to happen, and then they come and attack you and prevent it from being highly efficient. And you can see that they allow that, and then they attack downhill on you and prevent you from being highly efficient in the fact that they still only allow an average amount of total receiving yards to the running backs, even though they're allowing the second most receptions to the running backs, or targets to the running backs. Receptions also is a little bit more middling than the target number is, but opportunity, once again, will be there, and we've seen Chase Brown take opportunity and run with it the past couple of weeks. So I'm still going to give him my faith in a tough matchup, and then we've got my fade of the week. So yeah, not fading Chase Brown, just kind of warning you about this matchup. In terms of James Cook, however, he's going up against Kansas City. That's, I think, the toughest running defense. I didn't write any notes for my fades. I forgot to. But you can see the projections are pretty bad, and you can see they're actually worse than some of the players below, or at least you would think that he should fit into that tier. However, James Cook is on Buffalo. It's a really good offense. I still expect them to, score some points against Kansas City, get him into some situations where maybe he'll be the guy to get a touchdown. I'm not expecting a massive game from James Cook, but I am still expecting a solid game, a solid amount of usage. I'm hoping for a solid game, 10, 11 points, and maybe a little bit more if we get a little bit lucky. So that's kind of my expectation for James Cook. Not fantastic. Definitely concerned about bust potential here, but I'm confident enough in him and this offense that I did leave him in this tier. And that's going to bring us on to the next tier of running backs, which goes from running back 19 on down to running back 25. We're not going to go through all of my running back rankings. Those can be found up on the website, www.theFFForge.com, where you can see them as they get updated. And also, you can always find updated rankings live with me and Ask Any Start Sit questions on Thursdays, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time prior to kickoff. These schedules will start to get wacky soon with the holidays coming. But then Saturdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm always available. We talk trades, we talk start sit, we talk football, etc. during those. A little bit more loose of a session. And then Sunday morning for your last second questions, I am available all morning, 2.5 hours prior to kickoff. So from 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And let's get back to the rankings here. Running back 19, J.K. Dobbins, followed by Nick Chubb, Brian Robinson Jr., DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, Najee Harrison, Ramondre Stevenson is my running back 25 this week. You can see the difference in the rankings here, the fall off to this next group based on the coloring here of the lower and the higher end of the projections. We moved from the red, lighter red, maybe even a little bit of white, to the white, blue, lighter blue for the most part, even a darker blue here for Nick Chubb, who is my love of the week, which I did write my notes for. So for Nick Chubb, it has not been the most efficient running for him since returning from injury. Is that his offensive line's fault? Is that the fact that he's recovering from injury? I'm sure it's a little bit of both. But lucky for him, the New Orleans Saints allow the single most yards per rush to the running backs specifically. That's at 5.2 yards per carry. So you can't look at yards per carry allowed. I'm looking at specifically what have running backs done to the position, and they've been the most efficient against this New Orleans run defense. What a fall from grace for them. I'm going to take a chance on Nick Chubb this week, where several running back twos find themselves going up against stringent defenses. Not a lot of lovely matchups as we get later into the running backs this week. Might be more of a wide receiver quarterback week and a little bit of a disappointing week for the running backs, which has been rare this season. After that, Najee Harris is my second fade of the week. We do 2 loves, 2 fades for this position. Did I go over how I did? I did not. Let's quick recap how I did in week 10. My loves were Najee Harris finished as running back 20. Very disappointing that he was not able to be more efficient, only 2.5 yards per carry, when Commanders have been one of the least efficient defenses against the run. Teams have been highly efficient against them, top 5 yards per carry against them from the running back position. So that was a disappointing running back 20 finish for Najee, probably around where I had him ranked. Raheem Mostert, it was a gut call for me, one that as the week went along, I wondered exactly what I was expecting from that. It didn't help that Miami basically abandoned the run completely for little reason all game, so that did not come through. Raheem Mostert, I don't think, had 1 carry all game. And then for my fades, I faded J.K. Dobbins, who finished as the running back 30, so that worked out. And I faded Chase Brown versus the single best run defense on the season, so of course that made 100% sense. But I also called out the silver lining for Chase Brown, his path to success, which I think I talked about a little bit against the Chargers, which was that, teams were targeting Baltimore in that case last week at a very high rate, and that is something, part of Chase Brown's game that he can absolutely smash in, and we hadn't quite seen it up to that point in the season, but if they got him really involved, he could have a big week from there, and that is what ended up happening. Chase Brown have a good week. So we will not make that mistake again. We probably will at some point, but Najee Harris is my fade of the week here, going up against Baltimore. That same team we just talked about with Chase Brown. So good timing, because I just talked about how Baltimore's been the best team against the running backs via average fantasy points scored against them. On the ground, by far, through the air has been the area where you can get them. Well, you know what? Najee Harris is not really the running back that you expect to get a whole lot of receptions, that you expect them to scheme up to take advantage of that vulnerability in this matchup. So much so that I think that Jaylen Warren is a play this week. He is my love of the week. So that's going to bring us on to this final tier of running backs. My running back 26 all the way down to running back 31 starts with Rico Dowdle, followed by Travis Etienne Jr., Audric Estime, Jaylen Warren, Austin Eckler, and Alexander Mattison. Let's talk about Jaylen Warren while we're on this. My love of the week, so we're going to fade Najee. We're going to love Jaylen Warren, because if it's me, I am starting Jaylen Warren essentially this week in Pittsburgh. Maybe not literally the first running back out there, but he is my main game plan against Baltimore. I just talked about that Chase Brown thing, so I had a note to remind you about that. But hey, look at that. We just talked about it. And 9 catches later for Chase Brown, it was a good week. And I'm thinking 9 catches later that, hey, why not Jaylen Warren with 7 catches or something in this game? I think that Jaylen Warren has a very good shot of outscoring Najee Harris this week. Pittsburgh might even have him on the field more than Najee. I would, as I alluded to. So we'll see. That's kind of a gut call thing. That's why I can't really rank him over Najee. But if you believe in the narrative like I do, and you believe in the coaching staff there in Pittsburgh like I do, I think that's the key to success there. The X factor in that game for Pittsburgh, Jaylen Warren. Travis Etienne, Audric Estime, a little bit of a tough decision here in the rankings on them. Without Tank Bigsby, Etienne could be in line for a full workload of opportunity, but it is against Detroit, which is a team very good against the run. That said, Etienne's style of running might be able to take advantage of Detroit a little bit, and what we always want from Etienne has been volume, because he's not really good on a per run basis, but he can hit the home run with enough opportunities. So I'm banking on a little bit of home run help from Travis Etienne, and that's why I liked him more than Audric Estime, who seemingly has the starting role in Denver in a good matchup against Atlanta. Now, I am going to shock you with something that even I forgot here. Atlanta and Detroit actually allow an almost identical amount of yards per carry to the running back position. However, Atlanta is one of the worst teams against running backs in the passing game. Very efficient there. And that is another reason why we're not so high up on Audric Estime this week, because that's not really Audric Estime's game. He's not the guy who's going to be sitting here catching 5 balls against Atlanta, taking advantage of that weakness. At least that's not anything that I'm really aware of being a big part of his game, especially this early on in his career. So that does concern me about his ability to take advantage of that. Who knows? Maybe he'll be highly efficient through the air against them. It's always possible as long as he can catch the balls. And then Alexander Madison, fine. Last up here, going up against Miami. I do have some fear that I may have him a little too low, but it's not a particularly good matchup as Miami allows the 8th least passing yards to running backs per game, 5th least receptions per game, and through the air has been where Alexander Madison has gotten a lot of his work. I know he projects quite nicely, that's why I'm a little bit concerned about things, but also looking at the matchup, I just don't think that it fits nicely. And you combine that with the fact that under the radar thing here 2 weeks ago before the bye week, Alexander Madison ceded a good chunk of work to both Ameer Abdullah and Zamir White. Ameer Abdullah, Zamir White actually combined for more rushes than Alexander Madison. Alexander Madison, I don't believe, had any targets. Ameer Abdullah had like 2 or 3 targets in that game. So what was happening there? They're probably not exactly happy with what Alexander Madison gives them either, and they're exploring things. So are we really sure that Alexander Madison's the de facto RB1 here? I don't know. With that being said, currently this week, not ranking Tank Bigsby. I assume he has an ankle sprain, which should most likely keep him out for like 2 or more weeks. So not ranking him. Ty Chandler. I'm not going to rank Ty until we find out anything about Aaron Jones missing. If Aaron Jones misses, then I'm prepared to get him ranked. So there we go. That's it for the running back position. Thank you very, very much. Peace out.